Well, good evening. Welcome to Mostly Peaceful, which I might change the name to Always Tardy. But I'm here again with my good friend JJ Carrell, co-host of Mostly Peaceful, Unrestricted Invasion. Boy, do we have a crazy week to talk about. The good thing about this audience is you all know what's going on. So we're going to do our best from our experience to look behind the headlines. And before we get started, JJ, how was your weekend?
It was good. It's a lot going on. I was looking forward to getting on here and talking to you about so much that is happening, transpiring. I mean, just right now, Speaker McCarthy got booted, and rightfully so. I don't know your feelings on that, but I never
Did he get
trusted
booted
him,
today?
not one bit. Yeah, I think they all voted him out. He's gone. So now it's who's going to take his spot, and everyone's banging on Gates, and I think he's going to go in history as a hero because
Oh, yeah, I
like
agree.
he got on the floor today and he spoke and spoke and like I put on Twitter, what did he say that's wrong? He wants
Hmm.
standalone bills. What's wrong with that? I don't want to do omnibus bills of 3,000 to 4,000 pages that no one reads, and then we're all pissed off because we're in debt by trillions of dollars. Well, how do we get there? And he's the only lone voice. Uh, But it was interesting. It showed there's we have more rhinos than I thought we have in the
You know,
Republican Party.
I got to jump in and say I don't even call them rhinos or Democrats anymore. I think we have neocons who've aligned with neo Marxists, and
Yep.
they're selling this country off piece by piece. Personally, I think the Ukraine thing is an agenda, and I'd love to hear from the audience if we get to see them today. But the I think it's an agenda to totally devalue the American dollar so they can put
Hmm.
us on a digital currency with very little pushback. What are your thoughts?
I think that's true, and I think I'm doing more and more reading on Ukraine, and people that I really respect um, are coming out and saying this is the epicenter of everything. All the money's being laundered through there. Everything that's happening. Um, Now you're seeing, and I've said this for quite a while, for several months now, because just one day I was just sitting around thinking about Ukraine and it was getting pushed down. This was about 4 or 5 months ago, three,
Mm-hmm.
4 months ago. More money, more money. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I need to have a take on this, like a educated take. And I started looking into it and I could not find anything like just small clips of Russian media or Russian diplomats being interviewed. Think about that, Brian. When's the last time you heard or saw a long form interview of any Russian diplomat? None, zero. Why is that? Because they don't want us to know. And now I'm looking at the news on my computer. Ukrainian mass mass give ups in the Ukrainian army are just giving up to the Russian military.
Mm.
They're losing this war. This is a full on lie. Who is it, General or Tucker Carlson interviewed McGregor? Forget I've heard. I think it's Colonel McGregor, and he was the most articulate that I've heard on Ukraine maybe ever. And he knows the history. He understands what's going on now, and he comes straight out and says, if we go to war with Russia and they're aligned with China, we will lose. That's not
I
good to
agree.
hear from somebody from the inside that knows the belly of the beast. And he gave a litany of reasons why we would lose. And it's frightening. I don't know how you feel, but it's frightening to hear, yeah, we're going to lose. But I can't
Well, wait,
refute anything
who
that he
was it?
says.
Who was this that said this? And I'm sorry, I was
Uh,
trying to catch up for my lateness, so I missed it.
no, it's okay. Tucker Carlson did an interview, and I'm going to find it for you right now because I can't believe I
Okay,
forgot his
go ahead.
name. It's
Well,
McGregor, though.
and it was an American that said that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna pull it up right now. Hold on. He's Tucker Carlson has some of the greatest interviews, man.
Yeah, yeah. Tucker.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson, his interviews are so spot on. And I'll have to look at it's Colonel McGregor. He's been on Fox News quite a bit, wrote a couple books.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he someone
Older
actually
gentleman, white hair.
It's kind of slick back, and it's kind of looks like he used to be blonde. He's an older guy.
Yeah, but
yeah,
just
exactly.
and he just said it how it is, man. And when you're listening to here's a guy that is the expert, and he's telling you everyone in American media and politics are lying to you. He said, we being Ukraine's losing the war.
Oh,
Russia has 300,000 reserve fighters they haven't brought into the war yet, just on the off chance that America comes in. And when you listen to the very small clips that get the media leaks out from their equivalent of Secretary of State or their equivalent of our war generals, and they come out and they say, this is a potential nuclear war with America. And I'm like, holy smokes, nobody's even playing this or talking about it. Mm-hmm. They're on nuclear war standby, and America's worried about males having tampons in our bathrooms. Who do you think's going to win this war, Brian?
Seriously. Well, the thing, it depends how the war is fought. Now, my stances. I think the war's on right now. It's not a war that is easy to recognize if you haven't studied warfare or Chinese, their types of theories of war. It's so I think it's going on now, but I think that's also the kind of like the pre-war, almost the unrestricted warfare. Like, it's warfare. They're taking territory. They're seizing resources. They're taking out enemies, figuratively and literally. But I think, I think my biggest fear, I still think right now in a kinetic conventional war that America would win. And there's a couple of reasons I say that. Especially if they were invading us, because China's pretty untested as far as soldiers go. I mean, they really haven't fought that much compared to even Russia, and certainly not us. We have tons of experience and recent experience, and that's a big factor. The other thing is that I don't think they could deal with our armed population. I mean, I can't say worked with Chinese soldiers, but I have been in parallel type of events, if you would, with them.
Yeah.
And when I was in First Special Forces, so we of course never trained with the Chinese. They're not allies, but you meet the people that train with them and everything, and they're just our military, just fundamentally and basically. Now, this is when I was in, just down to the marksmanship and the unit cohesion was unmatched. And but you could be right. I hate to waffle so much. I just don't know the state of our military right now. And you're right. If people are worried about them as an individual or their voyage of self-discovery, being in the military, well, that's the wrong answer, because that's not what the military is all about. And so what I say to people on that is, you go in the military, you don't even fall under our system of justice. I mean, you fall under UCMJ. Pretty much give up not your constitutional rights, but you're not treated the same as a civilian. I guess the best way to look at it.
But this guy, and his name is Douglas Douglas McGregor, and he was a colonel. But he pushed back, like you said. I think we would win, and he pushed back on Tucker Carlson and said, no, we wouldn't. And he laid out, and part of his argument was, you said our guys are tested in military, and I agree to that to a point, but I'll disagree with you on this. He said our military has been conditioned to war against peasants and people that cannot fight. He says we have walked in. Yeah, and he says we're not battle tested. We walk in superior ranks and with armor military, whatever. We dominate. He goes, that's not the same. And he goes, and we're using tanks that are 20 or 30 years old, that are piecemeal together, that are obsolete. And he goes, and our guys have been at war for decades now, and they're worn out. They're worn out. So it was a very interesting interview, very interesting and frightening at the same time.
And I would also say that one thing that does lend to his argument is that you didn't mention, but I'm sure, I know we've talked about it, and we've been depleting our munitions, and literally depleting our munitions and sending them to Ukraine. Now, personally, I think that's by design. I think that is on purpose. And so my thing with that is, I don't know if we have enough to fight. Here's another problem in fighting the Chinese. So you've swayed me. You've got me to sway my own argument. It's you should have done what I did. You would have been better at it than I was. That being, like propaganda work way back in the day. But it's the communication systems. I mean, a lot of our communication systems are built by the Chinese. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
it's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it?
No, they're doing space warfare right now and taking out satellites. Yeah.
I don't know, Brian. I don't know when you're talking about warfare and coming into America and fighting us like on our shores. I believe that they're here. They just came out yesterday. DHS now is kind of prepping everybody for the horrible September numbers, but they've already admitted over 20,000 Chinese nationals have crossed the border, been arrested and released. They're finding these men wearing basically the same clothes, same tattoos, same paperwork, same IDs, same everything. And they're saying they're all military age men. And now we're having major people that are saying, whoa, hold on a second. We got a major problem here. But what does our government do? They just release them. It boggles the mind when you see this. That is going to be the biggest thing.
And I know all this is for real, and it's just like, the one thing I cannot figure out, I'm usually pretty good at figuring this stuff out, is I always understand there's always going to be a few traders that sell out their country for money, whatever. But this is beyond that. This is competing ideals within our country. And
you hit it right on the head. And that's something I want to talk to you about today is when you, like you said, you're having trouble making that understanding. I had that trouble, Brian, I want to say, while I was writing my book, and I was coming up with the whys. And I know the hardcore whys of this is why this is happening. But as I wrote it and as I did more research while I was doing all my interviews and stuff, it just hit me. It hit me that the man that's in charge of DHS, Alejandro Mayorkas, is a naturalized citizen from the communist nation of Cuba. Everything that he is doing is adversarial to the sovereignty of America. Now, when you look at people like him that comes from communist nation, Marxist nations, and the left in America today, they hate America. They believe that America's greatness is built on the foundation of ill-gotten gains. So in their mind, returning those ill-gotten gains, be it through deals with other countries that don't make sense for America and hurt America, or allowing people into America to take what is ours because in their mind, it is theirs. That is the only explanation that I can rationally wrap my brain around. I believe we have traitors in our government. I believe Alejandro Mayorkas is a traitor. Joe Biden has been seen as a traitor, proven already, selling access to him and his family to the tunes of tens of millions of dollars. But I believe Alejandro Mayorkas is the tip of the spear. And as I write in my book, and at the very last words I write about him, Mayorkas is a traitor, and I stand by that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Now, you said tip of the spear, though. Is that I mean, for that part of it, I doubt. I mean, respectfully, I doubt Mayorkas is the tip of the spear for the entire attack on America. He just doesn't seem smart enough.
No, he is the tip of the spear for the immigration, and I disagree with you. A lot of people get hoodwinked in his little meek. He's a very small man. He's very meek with his shaved head, and he's kind of mumbles. And people think that he's not that intelligent. He's highly intelligent. If you look at his education background and you look at he is the youngest U.S. attorney in the history of America, the youngest U.S. attorney, and then he gets put on as the director of USCIS, which is huge apparatus within DHS and immigration. Then he becomes the deputy secretary under Mayorkas.
If I may, sorry, JJ, go ahead.
No, I just find him to be intelligent. He's strategic, and he's determined. He's determined. Whereas the politicians,
but he also has protection. I mean, it's easy to be determined when you're protected, and I would counter with, and look, I don't know the man. I mean, he probably is intelligent. And to be quite honest, for a second there, and everyone, I do apologize, by the way, for being late. We are at the country house, and I had to build a fire. So if you see dirt on my hands, it's actually soot. And we might have a few guests pop on here. They just arrived from England. They're on the Pfizer documents team, having some coffee with Naomi as we speak right now on the porch. So I do apologize. But they might join us, tell us, maybe clue us in about what's going on with England and immigration over there. I thought it'd be kind of cool. But what I was going to say about Mayorkas, and by the way, when you said Mayorkas, and the reason I apologize as well is I've been so scatterbrained today that I had Merrick Garland in my head.
He's a
Mayorkas.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you. So here, and someone, thank you, W Horn, just posted McGregor. Let me attempt something, and everyone bear with us because either JJ or I are producers, and we will be looking for a producer once we start getting more funding for this. But in the meantime, it's just us, so we're learning this as we go. But let me attempt to do a share of my screen, I believe. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to call up W Horn's. I'm not going to do the YouTube, but I did find McGregor's bio. And I'm going to call that up right now and get that, just show that to the audience. So let me see here. God, I really am terrible at this. All right, what do we got? Here we go. I'll get back to it. Yeah, I did watch the video on how to do it, and I'm trying to think of like how to call up those those little websites and all that. So sorry,
we'll get it down.
I'll put it up in the banners right now, though. I'll put up W Horns. Thank you, W Horn. And I'll go and put that up in the banner when we get a chance. Oh, here we go. Show. Oh, there we go. Can you see that?
Yeah, look at you. Technological genius. Look at you.
Yeah, right.
Two knuckle draggers.
Hey, that's right. But you should have seen I took the 22 out today, and I got some practice shots. 22 is my daily shooting, like pea shooter, because the ammo is so cheap. If I shot 223 every day, I'd go broke. But yes, 22, 7.62 Galil. I'm awesome. Spying on people or pointing a camera, great. Strategic planning like you, tactical, awesome. Put me in front of StreamYard, and I'm Custer. So
yeah.
But with that said, so let's only now I have noticed. well, thank you, Adrian. I appreciate that, and from one proud Catholic to another, I appreciate that. And gave me a nice compliment. So the other thing is, so let's get to the headlines. That's what I wanted to say.
A lot of headlines.
We'll do what we did. But before we get there, I want to say that my good friend, Dr. Chris Flowers, and if anyone doesn't know who the Pfizer team is. They are Naomi Wolf and Steve Bannon from War Room got 3,000 plus volunteers together about 2 years ago now to go through all those Pfizer documents that FDA was forced to release about the vaccines and the adverse events. And it's a lot of documents. And so they got all these volunteers together, highly qualified volunteers, doctors, lawyers, statisticians, Joe Sixpack, and people who are dedicated, people with big brains, and the incredible Amy Kelly of Daily Clout has been the program manager from the get-go. She comes right in there and she divides them up. And if we go to battle, I kind of want her to lead because she knows what she's doing in terms of organization. So, anyways, Chris Flowers and his wife came back from England, and they're staying at our house, and brought me the nicest thing. So this is, I guess, what do you call these things? They're these Highland.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and so brought me a nice mug, but the coolest thing is one of these.
Oh, nice scarf. The winter's coming.
Yeah, and I forgot if someone could post in the chat, Mrs. Flowers referred to the pattern, I guess, as unique to each family, so historically unique.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So like every pattern's different. So I don't know what this pattern means, but great scarf, and it was a really nice surprise, and it was good to see them again. So anyone who would like to, I'll post Dr. Flowers Substack, and he's been doing some great work, and he's by the way, the best house guest you can ever have.
Really?
The best house guest. I went to the house after he'd been there 3 days, and everything was fixed, organized. I felt ashamed. It's like I just want to move him house to house. He's incredible. What an amazing guy. So, and he's the nicest people. So, thank you, Dr. Flowers and Mrs. Flowers. And they might pop their heads in here in a second.
Good. So, I like to ask them questions about the UK, because they're to put into perspective what they're going through. They're getting several thousand boat migrants a month, and they're in a state of emergency. We get several thousand within the first 4 to 5 hours every 24-hour day here in our border. But they do.
This is so bad now. Let's jump right in, because I want you to lead on the headlines, because you were on fire yesterday, and I don't want to take that away from you.
Well, what I think is very interesting, Brian, is where you and I left off last. And we were talking about savages, right? People in the world that are just animals. And in my business, in the Border Patrol, we call them savages, because they were savages. Their eyes look different. Their brains work different. And they were savages, raping, pillaging. And I find no joy in this, right? But it's a big but. Three people, 2 died last night, and the third one got carjacked. Congressman Quayla from Texas, I hope I pronounced his name right, far left lunatic. He got carjacked by 2 or 3 assailants, 2 blocks from the National, from the Capitol, I should say, in D.C. Got carjacked and ripped off. He's a beta male. We had a beta male from Philadelphia that was a far leftist. This happened last night. That was a full-on defund the police. Police are racist. I'm a Nazi. All my brothers and sisters in law enforcement are Nazi. Somebody breaks into his house and stabs him. Wait. He's dead.
Oh, you're talking about the reporter.
Yeah, in Philly. So, and then the guy, and you saw this in New York City, random dude walked up to him and his girlfriend, and that beta male, if you see the picture of him, it screams everything you would think of a beta male. He's into peace, love, and sharing the world. And we just need to understand people more, because people like myself and you, Brian, are racist and we're too mean. Well, a random stranger walked up to him and stabbed him twice in his chest because he's a coward and a baby and a beta male, and he got and he died from 2 stab wounds to the chest as his girlfriend just stood there and watched it happen. I saw those 3 headlines today, and coupled with the councilman or some kind of political leader in Minnesota got carjacked and beat up in front of her kid. She's a female, beat up and carjacked in her driveway, and she was a full on hate the police, defund the police. So we're seeing higher level people being destroyed by their own policies, and this is not in any way a one-off. This is ramping up. And as I posted a couple times today, and I didn't even hesitate to hit send and make comments, because those people called me and all of my brothers and sisters in law enforcement, they called us vile names. They didn't impugn our integrity. They tried to destroy us as human beings and said we are Nazis and they would actually say that. People. Yeah, we're Nazis and you're a racist and a xenophobe and you're a cancer to our society. And they banished us.
Unbelievable.
You know what we did? We left. Yeah. And now what do you got? And I saw this makes me, somebody sent me this today, because in law enforcement, we like to call ourselves or refer to ourselves as sheepdogs. Okay. You don't have to like that term. I don't know if I really like it, but it's a great example.
Why
illustrates sheepdogs? Because in the world, there are way more wolves than sheepdogs. And there are millions and millions of sheep that are just brain dead, walking around, have no idea what's going on, while the wolves march around and looking for the prey. And the only thing that keeps the sheep from getting eaten and killed are the few sheepdogs that will do anything and everything to keep those sheep alive. And we would call ourselves the sheepdogs. This has been for a long time. But you being those beta males that I talk about, and that heinous politician from Minnesota, and they're just representative of thousands of these people in legislations across the country. But you banished us, and we walked away either through retirement or on duty. Guys are saying the Ferguson effect, or guys that are law enforcement off duty have pushed themselves physically away from the danger and just said, you sheep are on your own. Enjoy it. And I'm going to tell you, you're looking at all the data through the major cities. Crime is skyrocketing. Murders, rapes, assaults, skyrocketing. It's because, Brian, they have removed the sheepdogs. There is just a regiment of angry, hungry wolves, and they're looking down the hill and they're going, look at those stupid sheep. They don't even know what they've done. And there's a there's a void in society right now. And it is that law and order void that keeps the savages at bay. You've destroyed them. You pick any major city in America, and they are understaffed by hundreds of police officers. And if you don't think that makes a huge difference, my God, man.
Yeah, big time. Well, let's jump into some headlines on that, because I think we should break that down, and I think that's a good theme, because if you read the summary I did, I was very inspired by our last conversation, and it's so true. And I never noticed before, but I brought up your conversation, Naomi, and I said, do I come across as a savage, like someone you wouldn't? She's like, yeah. And and I said, well, what about JJ? She's like, both of you're like, from the same tribe, and so I said, well, I don't think it's tribe. I think it's just that we've been, like most of the world, exposed to pretty wild and raw things. But what I did notice was there was a headline and I'm gonna try to get it on. I'm not gonna mess with the screen share right now, so I'll pop it on the banner for everyone. But there's a headline I picked up today, and let me see if I could call it up. But apparently, or maybe you sent it to me. Immigrants. No, you did send it to me. Something on immigrants robbing homes that had signs out front that said, "Yeah, go ahead."
Okay, so this is now it's.
And if you have the link, or can give me the coordinates, I can find it so that we can share it with the audience.
So what's happening in Michigan, Detroit area, is you have international. So you have 175 nations have poured across our borders. Okay, so now those nations are finding each other. Those citizens of those nations are finding each other, and international gangs are coming together. Right, it takes a while to get invade a nation, and then you have to find each other, and you get whole. So now gangs are going around in wealthy neighborhoods in northern Michigan, and they're looking for signs that say defund the police, immigrants, no human is illegal, and they're attacking those homes in home invasions and basically like locusts cleaning them out, because they know that only a beta male that has no weapons, that will roll over and allow them to just beat them senseless and rape and pillage all their women. And they're going in there and they're looking, and the sheriffs are like, you need to take those signs down. Please take those signs down, because the sign's saying, please come and destroy my family and take everything I have. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. I don't know what that really says about me, except that people that have tried to destroy me, I have absolutely zero compassion for. Whatever those savages do to you and your family, sans the kids that are innocent, you deserve it. You deserve it. All this stuff that you see posted about the beta males, oh, it's so sad. No, it's not. You allowed this to happen. You took the men and women that were fighting day and night to keep you safe and doing things in the dead of night that you could never do. Instead of thanking us, you demonized us, and many times you tried to take away our livelihoods. And I'm supposed to have some sympathy for you. Maybe if I was a better Christian, I would, but I'm not. So I don't. So I don't take pleasure.
We talked about this though, and this is a time of war. Or this time of survival even, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Man, I was really thinking about the numbers. I'm certainly not a statistician, but I was thinking with the amount of people coming through the border, it's only a matter of time before everyone, more so than usual, is affected directly by violent crime. So let's think about that. Like, how many would you estimate? Just go ahead, JJ. Give me a second. I have a. Yeah, I'm gonna end.
That's all right.
Quick commercial break. I don't care if you guys hear me talking. So
how many would I estimate? What?
We have Naomi Wolf off camera trying to get. I'm gonna try to get our guests on. I'm gonna invite you as a guest, and then you can pop them on there because it's gonna be too hard.
Okay. So I should get on StreamYard?
Get on. Check your email. I'll send you an invite. Yeah. All right. So, how many would you say, let's just say since 2021, have come through in
since
total?
Biden's taken office?
Yeah.
Since Biden's taken office in 33 months, I'm going to use their numbers. They are claiming over 7 million have entered and vast majority released. 7 million. Just use that number. They're using about 2 to 2.5 million getaways, so you're around 9. Let's just say 9 million. I'm telling you but that number is not correct. 9 million is not correct. The getaways are equal to or double the rest. So I believe since Biden's taken office, there's about 14 to 15 million illegal aliens have poured into our nation.
Gotcha. Okay, so of those that have poured through, and based on your vast experience as an actual senior border official and law enforcement officer for an entire career, I'm putting that out there so the audience knows who you are, and you've kept up on this stuff, and you have sources, you have people that share. How many would you say are, and this is, I know you don't have this number, so no one's going to hold you to it, but how many would you say most likely, hypothetically, because we don't know the stats, are violent criminals, or those criminals that maybe were burglars, but we know like burglars easily roll into violent crimes of opportunity.
Okay,
So
I'll just use what I use in my book. I have a chapter called "Standing Army of Criminal Aliens in Our Nation," and I use very grotesquely conservative numbers. And
all right,
in my numbers, I say that I believe that we have a standing army of about 8 to 10 million hardened criminal felons in our nation. Okay, if you told me, JJ,
since Biden's taken over,
no, probably. Well, I think that's how standing army is right now over time. Okay, and I go through. I give a very good breakdown of all kinds. I use an equation that I created and say, okay, here's the data from DOJ, prisons, Bureau of Prisons, and blah boppers, and we do it. So if you force me to tell you how many out of the 15 million, I'm going to say minimum 25% have some level of criminality in their background. And then when they get here, I think you add at least another 15% that will get into criminal activity. So I think about half, I would say over time, half of them will commit crimes because they cannot work and they'll have to steal and sell their bodies and do heinous acts in order to survive in America.
So let's think about this. It's like, let's just say for the sake of argument, what are there? Officially, there's about 334 million people in this country, according to the census, right around there. And let's say you add 3 million. Hey,
hey, how you doing, Naomi?
Hi,
letting the audience know we are joined by my wife and our friend, and I guess technically our editor now, JJ, because JJ is contributing some to the Daily Clout. And welcoming, and Naomi, I'll let you introduce our guests and good friends. And the topic we're talking about right now is crime, immigration, and the unbelievable numbers of violent criminals that have probably entered this country, thus increasing the odds. And that's what I was getting at, JJ. As that number increases, your odds of being safe and never being touched by violent crime, no matter where you are really, really plummeting, and plummeting fast.
Right.
Yep.
Well,
I agree.
Super important conversation. I'm so glad you are having it. This is a little bit of a pivot, I guess, but our friends are bringing an update from the UK. I'm kind of stunned with what I've just heard from them. Really? And it's Liz Flowers, who's a commentator from the UK, and Dr. Chris Flowers, who's one of the leaders of the War Room Daily Clout Pfizer Documents Research Volunteers, an MD who's based in Britain now, and over to Liz and to Dr. Flowers.
Welcome, Liz and Dr. Flowers, outside in the spring.
Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, very pleased to see you. Yes, well, we've got a few things happening. We've got the over $5 million worth of costings for asylum seekers in the UK
per day.
Per day.
I'm sorry, can you explain that? Of $5 million of what?
$5 million. It is costing the UK $5 million plus per day to house asylum seekers that are coming in.
So let's give a little bit. We'll give a little bit of background. Because Britain is an island, people have to travel across the water, called the English Channel, and they take little boats. And what's happened is that the Coast Guard are the guys who pick these people up and bring them ashore, acting very similarly to our southern border here, where the border agents are acting as concierges for everyone who's coming through the border. And in the UK, people who are coming in, the migrants, are seen as asylum seekers. They're all put up in very nice hotels, thank you very much,
Yes.
before being moved on to alternative accommodation. And as Liz was letting you know, it's actually costing nearly $5.5 million per day to the UK taxpayer. So it's an amazing cost, and there has been a lot of unrest, shall we say, as a result of this, because it's been going on for years. And some of the politicians.
I'm sorry, Dr. Flowers, let me interrupt for a second, and I apologize. Did you say 5 million a day?
Per
Dollars,
day.
yes.
Dollars per day.
Yeah, 400 hotels, nearly 400 hotels are being used.
400 hotels in England.
In England, the refugee seekers, asylum seekers are there for a certain amount of time and moved on into other types of accommodation.
Wow.
And there's no costings for those either.
So let me quickly introduce JJ Carrell. JJ is an author of a great book about our border called Invaded. He's a career, now retired senior Border Patrol deputy in charge.
Yes.
Did I get it right? Yep.
Close to it. We'll go with it.
Because he's the expert in this field. JJ, I'm gonna if you and Dr. Flowers and Ms. Flowers, if you don't mind, I would like JJ, can he hit you with a few questions about England? Because I'm sure, JJ, you must be curious.
I am. I'm fascinated because when I wrote my book, and I did 24 years on the southern border down in Tijuana and San Diego, and then up the coast of Southern California to San Francisco, and I dealt with the kind of the same thing, the boat migrants, but the cartels took over, the drug cartels, so the majority of the boats were just narcotic boats that my team would arrest on the coastline. But as I've done my research on this, and I've kind of pulled myself back just from more of a myopic United States situation issue, what I've discovered through my research is the term global reset. People kind of scoff at that and say, well, that's conspiracy. However, all the Western leaders have said that phrase once or multiple times. And I'm seeing a vast migration from the southern nations into the Western nations across the globe.
Yes.
We're seeing it from Mexico, Central America, all over the world, Europe, Italy, England, Italy, France, Germany. We're seeing the boat migrants coming up. Italy's being absolutely devastated right now.
Yes, Italy.
Italy is being devastated. And the latest I saw, and you know how the media kind of scrubs a lot of the stories, and I just caught a very glimpse on a story, and then it was scrubbed in a day later, is the non-governmental organizations, the NGOs in the northern nations of Africa have 500,000 military-age adult men standing on standby waiting for these boats to bring them to Europe. 500,000. And Brian and I have had this discussion because we're seeing this now in America. When you look at the hordes of humanity coming across our border, undeterred, welcomed, having to cost, the vast majority of them all are military-age adult men. And it's frightening because when you look at what happened to France over the summer, France was on fire.
Yes.
And we're starting to see that manifest in England. Are you seeing that same type of small towns being turned over demographically?
Thankfully, not yet. But it is well known that the migrants we're getting, most of them are fighting age males, and they're often from Albania, which was always the refugee sort of hotspot for Italy. They used to come across the Adriatic Sea there, quickly get into Europe that way, and then they just travel through Europe. And because Britain used to be in the EU, they had open access to travel through to Britain, where they knew they would be looked after because of the social care system actually encourages migration for purely economic purposes. we are very concerned because there are some towns and cities much closer to the southeast coast where most of the migration occurs, where there's been an increase in basic crime, street crime. But even 10 years ago, we were noticing it in the hometown where our youngest daughter lived.
Yes.
The migrants were sort of hanging around street corners and sort of attacking verbally and otherwise young women, especially who were going past. So it's not a new problem for the UK. It's been ongoing for many, many years.
Right.
But as you say, it's this fighting age group that are very worrying. Why is it fighting age group?
Yeah, we're taking in a lot from Afghanistan as well, and a city
That's
called
interesting.
a city called Leicester in the Midlands. They have now reached about 51% of immigrants over the native, historically the native population.
Although the native population were actually Indian. the population of no, they had little India turned into big India. Most of the city was full of Indians and Pakistanis. So they became the indigent population who have now been partially replaced by Afghanis.
Now, do you feel that there is a like we're starting to see now, the media could only hide it so much, and now it's becoming mainstream where our major cities, New York, DC, Austin, Los Angeles, San Francisco, they're crumbling. Their social services and systems have broken, and those cities are now claiming states of emergency. So there's nowhere to hide the enormity of what's happening. And now we're starting to see a slow groundswell of Americans that are like, whoa, hold on a second, I didn't know this was going on. Do you have that in Britain, or is it still like, it's not a big deal, we'll handle it?
Yeah, Britain's mainly apathetic. I mean, it's the same with the vaccines and everything else. They don't seem to be concerned about what's going on. I think most people are worried, about their own lives. But coming back to the cities that you mentioned, I mean, isn't this karma? They wanted to be sanctuary cities for so many years. Isn't this just payback? I mean,
isn't it? It's hypocrisy at the greatest level. When you look at, and part of the headlines that Brian and I were going to talk about is you have Governor Hochul in New York was saying literally 2 weeks ago, give me everything you got. We're the greatest state in the world. Now she's saying, if you took her quotes and the mayor of New York and you said, can you believe what a racist JJ is? And they would go, yeah, I can't believe he's saying that. And you're like, well, hold a second. That's actually the Democratic governor and the Democratic mayor of New York and New York City are saying it. So they sound like very conservative people because they've seen their cities are being destroyed, but it are being destroyed by a small fraction of the illegal immigrants that are coming through. New York City claimed a state of emergency on their first 15,000 illegal aliens they got. Not 1.5 million, 15,000. They shut everything down. So you're right. The hypocrisy of the sanctuary cities is mind-numbing.
Can I jump in here?
Actually, quick question.
Yes.
Dr. Wolf, if I could have Dr. Flowers back really quickly.
Yes.
I just want to address Dee Dee Tudor, who jumped into our YouTube chat. She's saying that, and I believe it, that Ireland is being devastated, and there's lots of attacks on young Irish girls, and the foreign males doing this are not getting in trouble. Is there truth? Is that accurate? Is that what you've seen? I'm sure that's what Dee Dee's saying.
I haven't seen that. I can't comment.
Okay.
Can I jump in now?
Sure.
Thank you.
You technically
you're
own
the boss. You do whatever you want.
Well, I'm so honored to be part of this really important conversation. I just wanted to say that Dr. Flowers and Liz Flowers have just told me about the imposition of 15-minute cities in Oxford and in other cities in London and other cities in the UK. And I think it's like a bookend to what you all are talking about, as culture is being kind of flooded with people of other cultures. And I just want to stress, I'm the granddaughter of immigrants. I'm the daughter of immigrants. It's not about, in my view, being anti-immigrant. It's about what is a nation, what is a border, and, you know, what is sustainable. But to me, it's really relevant that they were describing to me how Oxford, which is a city I love and where I spent many years, is being restricted in a kind of quasi-ghetto type set of policies in London too. Can I ask for a few minutes for them to explain what's going on with that? I think it's really
By all
important.
means.
It's coming in full in 2024. And the idea of a 15-minute city is that you can't drive in neighborhoods further than you can walk in 15 minutes. So otherwise you have to use an alternative route to go around to different neighborhoods. And there's the possibility that they will give you a certain number of passes per year to be able to drive through. It's not fully come into effect yet. So it's not absolutely certain what's going to happen, but this is what they're working towards.
Can you talk
But
about
the interesting thing is that one of our Daily Clout volunteers lives in Oxford, in one of the poor areas of Oxford, and she's been saying for the past year that they've been restricted in movement. You know, they're actually the past year. So even though it's not supposed to be coming in, the pilot isn't coming in until 2024, February of 2024. It's actually been going on for the past year.
What about you, Les?
Dr. Flowers, they're already launching a pilot, because I also know they're doing this in New Mexico, Arizona as well. But they have a date for, and have they laid out, and you know, I'm not sure if they put this out, but I guess this would be the national government, or is this the local government in conjunction with the national government? I mean, Oxford's a wonderful place, but we did notice it was starting to get kind of, even the university there was really starting to get sectioned off into different neighborhoods almost.
Yes, I think there's a little bit of obfuscation as to who's actually in control of this, but officially it's coming from the city council. They've decided, they've come up with this plan, although this plan was put forward actually by the World Economic Forum. So it's not like a new thought. It's something that's been widely spread. And in fact, there are alternative ways that they've actually been, other cities have been attacking this. So for example, in Wales, they decided that the cities would have a maximum speed limit of 20 miles per hour. And that came in last month on the 20th of September. And I can tell you, I was only there a few weeks ago visiting one of our daughters, and trying to drive under 20 miles per hour.
That's very tough.
It's extremely tough because they've got cameras everywhere. And they're pretty brazen about finding you, you know, even if you go just 1 mile per hour above the speed limit. So that's number one. But the other one is the City of London, of course. You've probably heard that Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, has imposed something called the ultra low emission zone, ULEZ. And they've got cameras everywhere. And if you have a so-called gas guzzling car, in other words, any gas powered car, they're charging you the equivalent of $15 per day if you want to keep a car in London. Now, can you imagine? I mean, that's fine for the elites, but for ordinary working men and women who have to have a car to get to and from work and do the basics, I mean, what are they going to do? How can they possibly pay $15 a day? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
I'm posting that in the banner right now. I found the government site for that. So
it's working against the older cars.
Did that pop up?
Can I ask you something? How does this make you feel? If you can go back in your mind and your memories when you were a teenager and then becoming a young adult in England to what your country has become now, Can you tell me what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah,
Good
well, I can
question.
tell you, I was at boarding school in London back in the day, and there was a place called Hyde Park Corner in the middle of London where people of all sorts of persuasions used to go and speak. Didn't matter whether you were on the left or the right. You had freedom of speech. People respected people's opinions, and you can argue, and you can argue openly. But it wasn't like a heated discussion. It was more of a good old academic discussion of the pros and cons. Well, I don't really agree with you here, because we are very plainly spoken, and we know how to argue without upsetting.
Right.
That was back in the day, but things changed after the 70s into the 80s, and maybe it was the summer of love. I mean, a lot of people think that's when the change sort of occurred, but gradually, you can't have hate speech. What exactly is hate speech? And then the narrowing of what hate speech was, or should we say widening, to encompass virtually everything that the latest definition I heard for misinformation was information they don't want you to know. So.
Well, if I may, Ben Harnwell, is he from England? I think he is.
Yes, he is. But he's in a friary in Italy.
Yeah, he's there. He's one of he's Steve Bannon's War Room's I guess European correspondent. But he said it best. He said the legacy news is there to keep you ignorant about what you don't know.
Yes.
And keep you misinformed about what you do know.
Mm-hmm.
I think the BBC used the method of omission.
Oh, without a doubt, and pure censorship. I mean, our good friend over there, Mark Stein at GB News, Naomi was on that show, and he's a really great guy. I had the pleasure of joining him for dinner, and he's as much fun as real as he is on TV. Same guy, and a real newsman, and a lot of integrity, and there's no dishonesty there. No one's trying to spin anyone. I don't know if you followed what's been going on with GB News and Ofcom. And Ofcom, I guess, would be JJ. That's like the FCC, except it's a bit on steroids. There, like they swoop in and it's like
everybody.
Yeah, so our Federal Communications Commission in the 80s was really bad. Like they were out of control. But they're going to get that. Actually, I don't know if they're going to get that way again, because it seems like their role has been taken over by HHS, Health and Human Services, who seems to be the ever-growing monopoly of dictatorial power in this country.
Because GB News used to be the sort of the only conservative outlet, if you like, with alternative views on things. And as soon as it started with Mark Stein and talking about vaccine injured people, that's certainly something you can't talk about, because there's only one member of parliament in the UK who actually stood up and spoke about it. And that was Andrew Bridgen from North Leicestershire. And he was kicked out of the Conservative Party as a result. He tried to debate in Parliament, ask questions of the health minister, and everyone got up and left. Only the statutory people were remaining in Parliament while he was asking the question. He was shunned by the party as a result. And now, of course, they're going after other people that they don't like the views of. So Neil Oliver, for example, is under the crosshairs right now in GB News. And really, even GB News, we don't watch very much now. We have to stick with alternate media because you just can't get discussion of the relevant things. It's like they just talk about fluff. I think one of the stigmata that one of the cutting remarks that Steve Bannon uses about Fox News, I think, is really good. He calls it TV for stupid people. It's like that. Yeah, you can sit and you can be entertained, and you can watch Nigel Farage having a pint of beer and laughing with his bad British teeth. So,
Dr. Flowers, I got a note that said to make sure I don't keep you talking too long, so you can enjoy your your evening with your lovely wife and my lovely wife, and I'll join you guys soon. But let me ask you one more question, if I may. First of all, your Substack is this one with the kind of creepy picture with the mouse guy in the thing here.
It's a bunch of flowers, but you could
Yeah,
just
yeah.
it's Dr. Chris Flowers MD.substack.
I'm gonna pop that on the banner for people here so they have it. And then the other question I had is, and take no offense, it just kind of, I was making sure you weren't getting hacked. It's that one's going to keep me up at night. But the other question I have you, so recently there was a news report about this mass polio vaccination in Pakistan. Now, prior to that news, on the same day, I don't know if the events happened on the same day, but prior to that news, it was announced that Pakistan was kicking a bunch of illegal immigrants who are Afghanis out. Now, to me, maybe it's because I just am a bit of a war dog, but to me, that sounds like the stuff you do before you're expecting a war. You get people out. We did it in this country, unfortunately, in World War II with internment camps, and you get the people away from the population just in case they are the enemy. However, I also know that Pakistan is closely aligned with China. I know Afghanistan is pretty much owned by China. They didn't even close their embassy when when Biden gave up Afghanistan on August 15th of 2021. And so they're both basically, China vassals. And there's even reports of uniformed Pakistani soldiers, and I say these Kabul Times, I'll make sure I post those, in with the Taliban. And they're escorting Chinese geologists out to the semi-precious mineral repositories, same ones that you make semiconductors out of, by the way. My question to you is, these two events, as a doctor, an actual MD, and someone who's well versed in everything that's especially been going on with vaccines and everything in the last 2 years, 3 years, are these two events connected? And if so, how? And what is your take? Have you heard this news at all?
I hadn't heard the news. I think you'll need to let me think about the possible connection with the polio, because I don't know enough about what they're actually doing. But I will say, from a knowledge of history of that area, with India being the alternative country that produces the precursors for our medicines, and knowing that China have already attacked India on the northern border and been repelled eventually, that, do we have pincer movements going on either side of India? Are they trying to destabilize India? And maybe that may be the bigger picture.
That's a really good point. And you also throw in Burma and all that happened there. No, I definitely see the pincer move. I did notice that and JJ, you probably noticed this too, it's this mass polio inoculation effort, and they said for 44 million children. Now, personally, I know there's a lot of people in Pakistan. I didn't know they had 44 million children. And why just the children? So definitely, why don't we'll do another live stream. I'll have you come on, because I'd love to talk about this. Because to me, this sounds like war.
Let me do some research. The question, I've got two questions. Is this an mRNA based vaccine, or is there something that's been included with the vaccine? For example, like potassium iodide, which is used in case of nuclear attack, for radiation poisoning. And it's one of the quickest ways of administering protective medication could be through a vaccine prior to a nuclear attack. I mean, those are my two questioning.
But we'll have to circle back, and I agree that's interesting. I just I think the first thing you said is probably more accurate, because I just haven't seen a lot of empathy for a lot of these governments and their you know lower income class children and families. I just haven't seen it. And I've never seen that. I mean, they've been on the brink of nuclear war in Pakistan and India for years, and they've never done this. And so or is this another way to spread polio? And that's where I got to thinking, inoculate the children. They didn't specify they're Pakistani children, then kick them all out into the world the same way China did at the beginning of the pandemic, when they had cases and they closed off domestic travel. JJ, I don't know if you heard this, but they kept international travel open.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's a fact for anyone out there who is going to say, "Oh, that's actually a fact," So, Dr. Flowers, I have to let you go. I'm getting motion over here.
He's not there anymore.
Anyone who's married knows what I'm talking about. But so I'm going to let you go, and then we will, JJ, for those listening and indicating that we should wrap it up soon. We're going to go till about 9:30, if that's okay, and then we'll close it out.
Absolutely. Very nice to meet you.
Okay, thanks.
And aren't these the nicest? These are the nicest people. They're so awesome. They're so awesome.
Well enough for you.
That's great. Very nice to meet you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Both of you. All right. Take care.
Wait till we disappear from the screen.
Okay. So the other thing is, there we go. All right. Okay, I'm just gonna do like dry runs on Streamer.
No, I thought that was great to talk to those two and get a perspective of what's happening in Europe, because we all like to think in America, Brian, that we're the trendsetters and where we start. That's not true. If you look at history and you look at movements, etc., almost all of it starts in Europe and it comes here. So what we're seeing in this mass migration, illegal alien crap, they've been dealing for a long, long time of mass turmoil. But it's interesting to see their country and ours stick their head in the sand and play that you're a racist if you say anything.
It's the same thing everywhere.
It's identical.
And I would even say, sorry, I'm getting a video ready to spin up because I want to end this on a high note. But we have a place in Brooklyn, and so we went to a local bar, and the neighborhood we're in is mainly people from Africa, like Nigeria, and then there's also a lot of people from Jamaica there and Haiti, and they've been there for a long time. These are not new arrivals, and right. But it's really, really interesting and our whole area, it's up and coming, but it's mainly, it's a working class neighborhood for blocks and blocks and blocks, and we love it there. And you can still have conversations, but it's interesting that the people from this guy is talking to, he's a musician. I won't say his name until he says I can, but we became friends. And we were talking for a long time. His father was in the military in Nigeria, and we were, I let him know I was. And to them, it was no surprise. Like, yeah, of course, these pharmaceutical companies experiment. They've been doing that to us for generations. And of course, and their biggest hang up, they're like, and of course, France is in the middle of it somewhere. And this is, people from 3 different countries I'm talking to. Like, and these are not, academics. These are people who, are they know what's going on like we do, but they're not, they're not Ivy League historians, right? Or anything like I'm not. And but people that understand the news and they know what's going on. And it just was like, of course that's happening. Why do you seem so surprised? Why do you think we left? And now it's found them here. And these people aren't happy about any of this either. And they don't see, like everyone in Africa sees China as the enemy. I mean, they smile and they say, yes, of course, we'll take that toxic financing. But they hate them and they feel like they are under siege. But they really see the EU Canada and now the US in the last 3 years, especially. And you know, in the time prior to Trump, and this is not a pro-Trump statement, it's just their commentary. Like, they don't really have an opinion on Trump because they didn't really get any news on Trump because the news was controlled. But
Right.
it's interesting to me that we in this country are fighting our own people for the stage called common sense. And it's kind of like, this is happening. Take Dr. Flowers and Dr. Wolf and those teams. You know, they're writing reports that are based on Pfizer's documents. They're not piecing it together. This isn't, you know, some hypothesis. No, these are documents that they turned into that Pfizer turned into the FDA, saying, yeah, this will do this, this, and this. Like, for instance, one of the main symptoms of the vaccine from Pfizer is COVID. I kid you not.
You can't make this stuff up, right? You just can't make it up.
There's a whole book, and I'll definitely post the link. But look, I wanted to, JJ, hate to cut us off, because honestly, I won't talk all night. We could go on anytime. We're going to be on Thursday night, same time. We're going to go longer, and we will be up early. And if we decide just impromptu to hop on tomorrow, if you're around, I'll do it. But what I wanted to ask Dr. Flowers, I didn't get a chance to, is it does seem like you're starting to see the different teams now. So when I say it does seem that way, let me kind of take a chance, post the link. DD Tudor, post which link? If you can hear me, and she's saying, please post the link. There's Dr. Flowers Substack, that link. Okay. So I'll post it when DD Tudor on YouTube, please specify which link you want me to post on. I'd be happy to post it. So I want to play this video. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Okay. And but this really kind of made me happy, and it does show that there are politicians now. They might get stamped out, who knows? But there are politicians that are getting it. And this is I don't know if you saw it, and it's a member of European Parliament. I'm gonna try this because I practiced. TARCZYSKI from Poland. And I loved what he said. So let me see if I could share my screen really quickly. Give me a second. Sharing the screen. Okay, so share screen, 2 easy monitors, share screen. Okay, there we go. Share screen. And let's see how this works. Okay, so yep, here we go. Chrome tab. See, that's what's cool. You could do this Chrome tab thing. All right, so can you see that? Okay, I'm just gonna hit play.
I do.
Okay. This made my day. This made my day. So here we go.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear leftists, I'm very happy to take part in the debate about democracy in Europe. So let me give you some example of very major democracy in Poland, over 1,000 years of tradition of Polish nation. Polish nation rejected you, dear leftists, 8 times. 8 times in a row you have lost elections in Poland. So get used to it, because you're going to lose again. That's number one. Let me give you some data about Poland and Polish democracy. The lowest unemployment in European Union is Poland. The highest GDP after COVID in European Union is Poland. One of the lowest debts in European Union is Poland. So don't give us this rubbish about the need of educated immigration, as we heard yesterday. We don't need your doctors. We don't need your engineers. Take them all, and pay for them. We don't need them. You know why? Because there's 0 terrorist attacks in Poland. Why? Because there is no illegal migration in Poland. So don't give me this look. Don't give me these arguments about the populism, because this is a fact. This is your data from Eurostat. So we don't need your engineers. We don't need doctors. Take them. Do not teach us. Do not teach us about democracy, because we know what the democracy is. So learn from Poland. Be like Poland. Thank you very much.
Bravo.
Isn't that
And
great?
on that note, and I will make sure I get the link to that video. Dee Dee got your message. I will get you the link. She wants the link for. What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to give you the link for Daily Cloud's reports on this, which have the links to the original documents as well. So JJ, I think, and I like to give a call to action. So my call to action, which I do, I never tell people to do something I don't do, is do whatever it takes. I have a good friend on Twitter. I've met her in person. Her and her husband are out there in Albany with signs of just signs, out there on the street in front of like vaccine clinics, and they're shaped like assault rifles. And she's like, these never miss and these always kill. And they're just like, now that's not my style, but they're doing something. And what's important about those kind of things, or like when Project Veritas got those glowy trucks that do the signs, and we're showing the Pfizer dude that freaked out because he admitted that Pfizer was talking about forming a team to manipulate the variants to make more vaccines, to create a market. So what I would tell people is do more than Twitter, do more than, even Substack and everything. The toughest part for a lot of people, the toughest part is to talk to the people, especially the ones in your family that don't want to listen. And you have to, because one thing about how we got here, how people get propagandized, is that drip, drip, drip. And you have to use the same tactic to wake people up. Now, some you won't, and you still pound them with it. Be the annoying person at the party. Be the guy like me, even my daughter, who's wonderful. She's wonderful. She's too busy, as she says, but she's not pro-vax. She's not anything. She's like right down the center, super busy, hard worker. But even she's like, don't tell me, Dad. I bet they're linked to China. I said, well, I bet you $20 they are no more than 2 degrees of separation from the Chinese Communist Party. And we were talking about a food distributor. So today I bought this really, really great cup of coffee, a newspaper. I got a bag of croissants with $20 that I earned. So the point is, it's like, this stuff is great. Like this community and videos are wonderful. But get people together. Where we get people together a lot, we'll announce more get-togethers. But get people together in the middle of the pandemic. Our rural neighborhood here, the minute it was a Cuomo at the time said you can't have gatherings more than 5 or 10 people, some ridiculous nonsense like that, and you have to wear masks inside. The first thing we did, we got on the horn to people we didn't even know, just from the local community of like-minded thinkers, and we had a big potluck. I think we had like 30 people. We had cars lying down the street, and we had the neighbors across the way that are like the, they'd be the snitches, and the local total man, terrible. But they came in, a cruiser showed up. I was ready for it. I had my blink camera ready, give me the alert. He's here. And I go out there and he's like, oh, there's a complaint that there's more than 30 people, more than 5 people gathered here. I said, well, there's at least 15, 17 cars. So yeah, I think that's a safe assumption. And he's like, and he's like most police officers. He's like, all right, well, I don't see them. So I guess we're good. And I said,
yep,
whatever, do you want some chili? And he's like, I do, but not today. And that was it. So remember, it's like, and the important thing about that story is, yeah, you know what? There's going to be snitches, and there's people conditioned for them. There's just assholes. Okay, but the thing is, the more people you meet in person and talk to about, keep in mind, a lot of people don't know a lot of this stuff is going on. A lot of people don't know the war we're in every day since this thing started. A lot of people have never heard of the Pfizer documents, or have never heard of like what's going on with Trump, or the censorship, or the disinformation bureau, or whatever they are. like all these things that we see every day and we're very versed on because we're doing this. A lot of people don't even know this stuff's going on because it's not covered in legacy media.
Yeah.
And you really have to hunt for it because the way things have been censored. So I think it's our job, the people who are awake, okay, as much as we can. I'm not saying it's our mission. We got to go wake people up. They'll wake up or they won't. But it is our job to be the Paul Reveres. And as we're riding fully armed, hopefully with an AR-15 to the battle, to also be handing out the information saying, hey, this is going on. Now you could stay there with these people, but you know, they're going to screw you over and you're going to die, or you could come with us this way. I think that's our job. And let's just face the facts. And JJ, I think you'll probably agree with me. A young person said to me, just the funniest thing I've ever heard. A young person said to me, and this guy is like, kind of like, you know, not so much on the fence, just unaware. And he was doing some social media for a friend of mine. And he said, wow, I've never seen so much. I didn't know all this was here, like Rumble and Getter and all these different newscasts. And then he said to me, he goes, and why are all the conservative women so hot? And he started showing me all these different politicians, and he started showing me my wife, and then thought better, like, click, and then and I said, no, it's okay, you could show her. But the point is, he's sitting there, and then his buddy comes over, and he sees the man bun type that you hate, and he's like, I don't know. I mean, I think you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I said,
yeah, sure it is.
I said, that's what all the ugly people say. He got so mad at me. But you know what? But there's a design in that. I'm kind of a jerk sometimes. But the other thing is, he started arguing with me, and by the end of that argument, I was just pumping him full of information and pumping him full of stuff he didn't know. And he's like, oh, I'd like to see that. So I'm showing him videos. What he doesn't realize is I don't care if he thinks he won the argument, doesn't agree with me or not. Now it's in his head.
Yeah.
And that's how propaganda works, and that's how covert influence works. So be the overt influencers and take this battle. Look at the way vaccine confidence program, the vaccine actual propaganda program. I'll post the link. Look at the way they do that. And JJ, I think I'll do a whole thing on this because I worked in a similar discipline for many years during the war on terror. But the thing is, it's the same thing. And when I saw what they were doing to push not just the vaccines, but this goes to these 15, this stuff's all connected. And I'd advise everyone to check out some of the One Health videos I've shared with you. It's all under that. That's the framework. But the way they propagandize people is just that drip, 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 drip. And it's in the graffiti, it's in the music, it's in the rhythms, it's in the colors they use, it's everything. So that's my call to action. Go out, be loud, and, you know, get Man Bun yelling at you, because if he's yelling at you, that means you're under his command. And no offense to Man Buns, I actually had one in the middle of the pandemic, but but like a top. I looked at mine as more of a samurai thing, but you know. But yeah, and JJ, I like to give you the last word here. And I will. By the way, me and JJ's links are on the description of this video. And when we post this video as a recording, I'll post all those other links. And DD Tudor and everyone else who joined us tonight, you know, W Horn, everyone, Adriana, and there's a lot of people that didn't comment, all 9 of them, but there'll be more. There's always more on the, well, that's just YouTube though. So, but the thing is, share this video and reach out to both me and JJ any way you'd like. JJ, go ahead and have the last word, and then put out your coordinates, and I will stop talking if I'm able to. So go ahead.
No, that's all right. Yeah, you can find me at JJ Carrell at Substack, or at JJ Carrell at YouTube and Rumble for my videos. You know, I love that. I saw that video prior, and it made me laugh out loud. But you said it, and I'll reiterate it, because this is what that man did, and the same thing with Orban, and the same thing with Trump. You have
Orban
to be
the president
from
of
Hungary.
Hungary.
Hungary, yeah. And you have to be like those men. They are unapologetically patriotic. And then this is the thing that they all three share, all three of these men that we watched or with Trump, is they never apologize. They never apologize. This is what I believe. You don't like it, go pound sand. And if we're going to make any change in the world, we're going to have to say what we believe, why we believe it, and then stand firm, because you're going to be attacked. And you have to, the moment that you try to do some apology or something to them, that is complete weakness, and they will attack you. So you're going to be attacked either way. So might as well have some self-respect and some pride and just stand there and say, nope, this is what I believe. Men can't have babies. 15 million illegal aliens in our country is not good. Diversity is not a strength. America is great because of the Americans that built her the way she is. So my thing is to always be unapologetic about who you are and why you are the way you are. That's what I try to live by. Sometimes I fail, but that's what I strive for. All right. Have a good night, my friend. Go enjoy your guest.
I shall. And JJ, you're right, man. And it's like, make no apologies for fighting. Make no apologies for being violent if you have to protect your family.
Yep.
And JJ's absolutely correct. Do not waver. You know what? If you do something wrong and you feel the need to apologize, like, you feed your daughter's pie to the dog, maybe. That's worth apologizing.
Well, if you're wrong, you apologize, right? If you do something or say something wrong, you're wrong. But don't apologize for who you are or what you believe in. Don't.
But what it does, you're right, and it makes you unassailable, and it makes it is a strength. Look, strength is that strength is the way to peace, and anyone that thinks otherwise are fooling themselves. Mm-hmm. You go into like the bar we were in this weekend, and Naomi said, "Oh, this guy was kind of flirting with me," and then I said, "Well, I'm married." And the guy's like, "Respect." I said, "Well, yeah, because in that world, people get their asses kicked, and so everyone has respect for each other, and it's and that's." I'm not saying, and the beauty of that is most of the time, not that it should matter, most of the time it never comes to violence because no one is stepping over the line. Everyone knows the boundaries. Without strength, there are no boundaries. We need boundaries, and we need borders.
Well, just look at the two men that died that were murdered. They didn't exude any strength, and they look like prey to the wolves. They are really that simple. Yes, but it's that simple. You don't have to. It's that simple. You have predators and you have prey. The predators are not going to come after me and you because there's a great chance they're going to die. Why would they take that risk when I have sheep wandering around in the pasture that I can just walk? I don't have to run. I just walk down there and I cut their throat and I eat them. But there's no difference between that and humans. The way that the evil side of humanity works. It's animalistic, but people don't want to talk about that because if you talk about that, then you have to acknowledge good and evil, and then we go down that rabbit hole where it leads us to God, and nobody wants to talk about God, right?
Yeah,
because that's the worst thing in the world.
But I'll tell you what, it's one thing you don't live with when you are well versed in even getting in fights and losing, but if you're exposed to it and you break that seal of fear, and most people are scared of violence because they've never had to use it or they've avoided it their whole lives. Mark my words, no one's avoiding what's coming, and it's coming to everyone. It came to Pennsylvania just last week. There was another guy, mass murderer, caught in Martha's Vineyard, another guy from Brazil. Not picking on Brazil, I love Brazil, but the point is here illegally. And
here illegally.
Work
They're
out.
Not going to escape. We didn't even touch it. Yeah, we didn't even touch the other main news of illegal alien in some small remote town in Minnesota. They were going around and kidnapping girls and sexually assaulting them. Illegal alien.
Oh, yes, I did. Yep. We'll get to that.
11 of them.
We'll do. Let's pick it up on Thursday, maybe even tomorrow. But let's
Sounds good.
talk more about that because. But yeah, I heard about that. That was horrific. Also, in late September, there was that bust of like 200 some odd, human traffickers in, Florida, and 38 of them were here illegally, and three of the
and they just
Johns,
did another one, Brian. They just did another one yesterday. 117, 35 more illegal aliens that were being children being abused.
Yeah, that was
in
and
Florida.
so the point is, it's just like I said at the beginning. It's a numbers thing. You start adding 1 million people a year, okay, and let's say half of them are criminals. And the reason why so many are criminals is they're emptying out their jails.
Yes, they are, and insane asylums.
And so that's what we're getting. And not to mention they're coming here. There's a sense of impunity because there's no law enforcement. I mean, law enforcement's there, but their hands are tied in a lot of cases. So the point is, my thing is this. When you start getting yourself figuring out how you're going to protect your home, your family, doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, figure out how to protect them, because no one's coming when you call 911. And no one is. Yeah, they'll come, but they're not going to get there in time. And so that's what I'm saying to people. But let me tell you the bonus of that. The bonus of that is, damn, it feels good. I'm not going to say it feels good to be a gangster, but damn, it feels good to walk around this world and really not fear anything, because you've seen the worst, and really the only thing left that could be worse than anything I've seen is death itself, and I won't know what happens anyways after that. So
True that. All right, go enjoy your friends and family, and we'll see you.
Thank you,
Thursday,
JJ.
Okay, brother.
Great questions. Right. Yeah, why don't you come on up? Come on up. Get on the train. Come on up. Join us.
I will.
Got an ATV for you and a gun.
Sounds good. All right, brother.
Take it easy. And thank you, everyone. And this has been Brian O'Shea, JJ Carrell for Daily Clouts, Mostly Peaceful, and this is the Unrestricted Invasion Edition. I will post all those links, and we will be back on Thursday at 8 p.m. Talk to you then. Bye.
Sounds good. Bye.